previously on Super Saturdays Draw-Along.
That's why I love to draw, and I wanna create Super Saturdays, Super Saturdays, Super Saturdays, Draw-Along.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, welcome to Super Saturdays Draw-Along with me, Jerome Hinds. I'm going to be here for the next hour and a half, going through a drawing exercise that you can hopefully join me in. So pencils at the ready. We're going to start a new drawing this week. I have a quick recap. First of all, let me set my music. Yes, I think you can hear that. Let me set my levels. Yeah, I can hear that. And we're going to do the last in our series of large superheroes. Right? Remember, we first did Goliath on the right. Then we did Giant Man. We drew these from scratch. Then we had Clash of the Titans, where we had old school Goliath versus Black Goliath. So there's one more character I want to add to this pantheon of large superheroes. I want to do a drawing of this young man. Here's my reference, whose name is Colossal Boy. Now all those other characters, funny enough, that I just showed you are from Marvel. This guy is from DC. So this is the great Mike Grell, a Mike Grell sketch. So here's a reference to his costume. The boots are different on Mike Grell as they are here on this other. I'm not sure who drew this. This might be Joe Staton. So Mike Grell blew my mind back in the 1970s when he drew the Legion of Superheroes, which is where Colossal Boy is from. So this costume that I'm going to put on Colossal Boy will be of the Mike Grell ilk. So remember I said pencils at the ready. We're going to construct this from scratch. I'm going to do some foreshortening. So whenever we use a pencil, what do we always say here on Super Saturdays Draw-Along? Keep those pencils light. Absolutely. As you can see, I'm working digital. So you must remember to always save. Good stuff. And don't procrastinate. Just do it. Just do it. Absolutely. So here we are on our canvas. So you notice that I've got a paper texture. And I like using that because, one second, let me change my layout. That's better. I like using the paper texture because it makes the penciling feel kind of organic. So in this pose, it's going to be a bit similar to Giant Man. It's going to be reaching forward, but in the other direction. So let's get my pencil, get a new layer, call it SK for skeleton. Because remember, with this stream, you know, I like to draw from scratch. So you go through the whole process and you build a character. You build a character up from nothing. So I've got my pencil texture here. There we are. Let me set my record time lapse. Oh yes, okay. Recording time lapse is already on. So I want my Goliath. Sorry, not Goliath. I want my Colossal Boy to be coming towards the camera, and there's going to be some fierce foreshortening going on with his front leg. So when I foreshorten a limb, I curve it. that tells me that it's moving towards the camera. Now, just how much is moving towards the camera? I'm always troubled when I pose this question because I don't exactly have a calculation. But the more used you get to doing this, practice is everything, yeah? The more used you are to doing something like this, like that leg is not foreshortened enough. I'm going to bring that back a bit to there. Those nodes are the hip and the knee. Then we get the lower leg. Yes, the more you do something like this, the more you will learn how to gauge things. Like you can see the lower leg here is not so foreshortened. And a lower leg, you could say, is a similar length to an upper leg. But from this length, this now tells us almost the dimensions of the rest of his body. Now, I'm going to change my mind here again. I'm going to foreshorten that lower leg to about this degree. Now, this is why I say keep your pencils light. Because if you're drawing on paper, which I am not, things can get a bit sticky. And then we put in a basic shape for the foot, which I call rounded triangles. One of our first lessons here, one of our first streams here was how to draw feet. So maybe I'll go through that again sometime. So now here are his hips. So if we draw through the object, this other leg is over here somewhere. So draw the other hip there. And there comes down his back leg. There's a knee behind there. And you can see that back leg is in the distance, but you can see it's like a similar length to the lower leg, which is in the foreground. And that's because that leg is closer to the camera, but it's also foreshortened. So there's that lower leg. Here's the ankle. So we put in our rounded triangle. So it's a basic shape of a foot. No true detail. I'm going to angle that downwards a bit more. A rounded triangle, I like to call it. Remember, if you're drawing traditionally, don't press too hard on that paper. Now we come to the upper body. Again, foreshortening. Here's the spine at the center. Now remember, the spine is not to be confused with the center of the torso, because we have the depth of body, don't forget. So the center of the torso will be in front of the center of the body, if you like. I've got one comment here. Let me just check on what that is. Hey, yo. What's up, Pops? That is our producer, Emeritus. Pops is in the house. So here we have the spine leaning forward. Now we come to the shoulders. I always say to people that shoulders and hips are very, very underestimated parts of the body. Once you have a good understanding of shoulders and hips, things can really change in your art. So there's a shoulder node. Yeah, the shoulder node. Now he's leaning forward, so his neck is foreshortened. So a head is like a ball on a stick, correct? So if that's going in to the back of his head is now projected forward. Now just how low his head is entirely up to the stance you have in your mind. But I'm going to put his head about here. There. See, it's going to the base. Imagine if you drew through the object. The base of his skull is somewhere back there. So let's put in that basic shape of the skull. Get rid of construction lines. So he's leaning forward quite a bit. Now, looking at his stance, what I want to do is, I want to change the position of that foot. I want it to be more toes touching the floor. So I'm changing the trajectory of that foot. So now, if we look at his body coming forward, skeleton, right? He's going to have one arm reaching forward here. I like to put a bit of a curve in the arm. That's the upper arm. But I want this arm also slightly coming towards us. So we bend it slightly. There. I've changed my drawing tool without knowing. I went to the pen and not the pencil. Concentrate, boy. So there's one hand reaching forward. And we put some basic shapes in here for this, right? Let's put in a palm. And then some sticks for the fingers. So there's the palm, the finger's gonna come from the top. 1, 2. And these fingers are hidden behind, right? Now I want it to be a bit more action-packed than that. So I'm gonna open the palm a bit. Whoops. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. I've drawn my hand on the wrong layer. Let me, that's why I changed my my pen tool unwittingly. Now this serves me right, because what I should have done is I should have locked my sketch there. So let me just redo this again. I'm going to foreshorten that a bit more. Curve this hand. And what I'm also going to do here on this retake, I'm going to put in more dynamics on this hand. So let's get the palm or the back of the hand going. Let's get the foreshortening happening. So we're going to have one thumb outstretched. There's one finger, with the finger, ring finger, and little finger. We'll give that some emotion, we dip it slightly. Good. Just had a quick question. Who am I drawing? This is Colossal Boy from the Legion of Superheroes. Oh, let's not forget his underpants. That gives us a marker for when we draw the rest of the leg later. So here, I'm going to make him getting ready for action. I want some good foreshortening here. I want his fist to be raised. So what we draw first is the fist. Then you attach the arm to it. So we know the foreshortening of this arm is going to be something like this. And the wrist is somewhere behind here. So we've got most of our skeleton. What we put on at this point is we'll find the center of the face as well. And the basic planes of the face. We'll reaffirm this later with the dimensions, correct? Correct. So there's our basic stance of Colossal Boy. So now we get to fleshing out. F-O for fleshing out. And when I flesh out, I like to flesh out quite often. Whoops, sorry. I normally do my skeletons in red pencil in my guide notes. So now we come to the fleshing out, where we start to put the cylinders in. One moment. Remember I drew on the wrong layer? Let me erase that mishap. Silly boy. Silly boy. Let me lock that layer before any more accidents might occur on this Super Saturday draw along. So here's the part where I'd like you to pay special attention if you're drawing along with me. Is especially now, more than ever, I would like to really reiterate that you keep those pencils light. Indeed, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, because we're going to systematically construct all of the cylinders and body parts that we have here. But not before I finish this fist. See, me, I'm always getting so excited, I start rushing off. Now, you saw the way how I just drew skeletons for these fingers, okay? I'll put the knuckles up there. Joints, they're not so important here, but get used to putting your joints in. Fingers have two joints, not including the knuckles. So here, on this fist that I have in mind, the thumb is wrapped underneath. This is one finger. It's the middle finger. Ring finger. And remember, the middle finger is the biggest. Now, I have to be careful. There's something that I call an artistic footprint, where we all have tendencies to do certain things because it's just the way we're wired. It's no different to the way we walk. You may walk similar to your father or your mother. It's just part of who you are. And I have a tendency to draw index fingers too large. So I have to keep an eye on that. Now, what I do want to do is I want to raise that index finger. I get that from the late, great Gil Kane. A raised index finger when you're drawing a fist. And I want the trajectory of the fist to be more curled in, so I'm going to move the wrist to be behind the fist. We drew through the object, that wrist would be behind there. Good. So now we've got our basic foundations for our fleshing out. So you get your pencil and let's slowly start to flesh out these different cylinders. Let's start about where we just were with this fist. Let's mix it up. Okay, I'm going to draw through the object. This is his wrist. Okay, think of this as an exploded diagram. Now, we all know with foreshortening, you're drawing basically cylinders. And the back of an arm, of a forearm, is much wider than the wrist area. Now, the elbow is behind here, which is quite thin again. But because of our foreshortening, we can't really see the elbow. So now we come to the upper arm. So here's coming up to the shoulder. We know that shoulders are big things. So the shoulder will come over. Now I'm not going to get too much into the anatomy here. I mean, I kind of am already. But it's the main cylinder that I want you to look at. And then that's going to come under to join to the elbow, which is behind. Can you see that? My computer's momentarily saving. It's Clip Studio Paint that I'm using. I keep forgetting to zoom in. I'm such a terrible teacher. Now let's look at these fingers. This is a thumb. So let's flesh this out. Remember, keep those pencils light. So remember the raised index finger? Let's put that knuckle in. There. Remember I mentioned the index finger is smaller than the middle finger. Then it comes down to the ring finger, and there's our little finger tucked in here. There's that middle finger. Then comes the ring finger, and it's coming down to get smaller where we get the little finger. Now, because of the angle, we can slightly see the back of the arm. We can slightly see the little finger tucking in. Therefore, we can see the base of the fist, so slightly coming over. Now, here's our raised index finger. Now, I'm going to change the trajectory very slightly of that thumb as it comes around. There. And we can slightly see the back of the fist there. And we can see a little bit of the lower arm, just of the lower fist, sorry, protruding over that side. So there are the fingers. Kind of, let me Gil King this. I'm going to put the wrist up there now and let the fist come down. Now, can you see that? What I just told you, my index finger is too big. I always do that. That is a real problem I've got. Got a problem with your fingers, boy. There. What it is, I got overexcited. I've raised it too much. That's what I've done. Be civil, boy. Drop that down a little bit. All right. So let's go for the other arm first. So again, we got the shoulder, correct? So let's put in the cylinder for the shoulder. And we got a certain degree of foreshortening going on here. So we get the shoulder. Make sure your shoulders match up in relative size. I know this one is closer to the camera, but again, you've got to use that creative eye to make sure your limbs are all similar ratios on average. It's very easy to overlook that. So if we draw through the object, here's the cylinder of the bottom of the bicep. So with this arm reaching out, we now join this up. Here's the underside of the arm. Now you can see this arm is in the distance, but it's a bit small. I'll make it a little bit bigger because it is, after all, foreshortened, so it's coming towards us. There, that's better. Now let's do that wrist. Now I definitely want a bit of Gil Kane going on here, so I'm going to keep this wrist not too low. So there's our cylinder. Now the back of the cylinder. Again, the joints, I always say to my students, keep your joints slim. But we can't really see the joint here as such because of the foreshortening. So let's get the back of the back of the cylinder going. Now let's join it up. Get the outer arm going outwards, then the inner arm coming in. Good. So now we come to the hand. Now the hand is very foreshortened. So we've got the cylinder there for the palm. So let's just put in some accents of where the knuckles would be. Now if you look at your knuckles, the fingers start slightly down from there. So let's not forget our foreshortening. Let's put in our index finger. Now remember, my index finger is always too large. So with that in mind, let's make sure that middle finger is bigger. Then comes our ring finger. Now, of course, that's getting hidden behind slightly now. And we're dropping down our little finger to give it a little bit of emotion. Our thumb is coming out. So this thumb is actually quite heavily foreshortened, which is not the easiest thing in the world to draw. You can see this part here is really coming towards us. That part is foreshortened. Now I'm gonna add a bit of emotion to that index finger. I'm going to raise it slightly. Good. Now, one thing I'm guilty of here is I foreshortened my arm, but I made a bit of a miscalculation there because this body is turned. You see that? I didn't foreshorten the body enough. So now let's get to the cylinder of the body. So we've got the shoulders here, but he's leaning forward. So the top of this cylinder, we go around the back, there, and it's going to come down the side. It's going to be enough to house the arm. Okay, this is like your socket behind here, if we draw through the object. This is like the socket here, where the arm fixes into. So then from there, the back is going to come down and start to arch. So he's leaning forward. So I'm going to make him lean forward by about this much. Think of the cylinder. Think of the fundamental shape. That's what we're doing. Now here's the tricky part. He's turning away from us with this arm outstretched. So this arm has now come to the front. So the socket, if you like, is slightly rotated to house the arm coming forward towards us. Now the reason why this is not easy to draw is, let me give you a quick demo of something here that's worth looking at. Here's a spine. Here are some shoulders. And you get your arms coming down like this, correct? Now the thing is, when you raise an arm, you can't do this. You cannot leave the shoulders just flat. What happens to the human body is, as you raise an arm, the shoulders curve. Then you get a raised arm. Now this, I see to be one of the most ingenious parts of the human anatomy. There's the neck, your shoulders suddenly raise. Then you get your arms. And I really like this part of the human anatomy. And this shoulder blade here is changing as he's leaning forward. We're going to come back to that a bit later. So now we're going to put a curve in his body. And this finishes the cylinder for the upper torso. Now come the underpants area. So here's his diaphragm. Okay, here's his hips area. So we just draw through the object here for the sake of it. Now because the legs are foreshortened, this is very tricky. So the basic diaphragm is here, goes underneath, comes out the other side, and of course, in this area, you've got the beginning of the leg. So I've kept the hip area separate to the torso area, but of course, this leg takes up a lot of space in this area as it adjoins to the body. So the cylinder for the leg, there's the hip, we're drawing through the object. So here's the back of the leg. And here is the front of the leg. So the knee joint, it's going to be slimmer than the joint that goes to the buttocks area, of course. So now we can foreshorten. There's the top of the thigh. Here's the back of the thigh. Now, of course, he's a superhero, so he's extremely buff. So now, this leg, you see, the back of that leg is all within the underpants. Now, we can even draw the underpants going down here like this. And the joint is very complex. The underpants area is coming towards us. The volume is greater than what we drew here, but we have to do that just to give ourselves an idea of shape, because we're doing this step by step. We're trying to give ourselves as many steps, if you like, to break it down. So now, remember, keep it perpendicular. This is the top of the lower leg. Then the lower leg here, as it comes into the ankle. So we know the upper lower leg goes out, comes in to meet the ankle, and the inner leg, slightly bulbous on the inside, comes down to the ankle. Now this foot, we can look at the angle of this foot, and he's going towards our left, correct? So I can take the basic cylinder, and let's make this foot slightly point leftwards more than rightwards. So there's our basic shape. We come into the lower foot. Here's where the heel would be. It comes in. Now it hugs that basic shape. Good. That does it for the front leg. Ooh, got a couple of comments here. I must remember to look at my comments. Wait, sorry, that was the earlier question. Who are you drawing? Colossal Boy. Oh, that's Argo Comics. That's Dan Sent in the house. Looks like a cool pose. Thank you, Dan the Man. Those are overpants. Cheeky devil pops. Dad says, hey, pops. Indeed, you could say those are overpants. I tell you what, mate, until you got your pants outside, until you've drawn a character with their pants outside, you haven't drawn a character. Okay, so here we are drawing through the object. Getting a bit complicated. We're drawing the leg behind. So you can see the cylinder behind here, correct? So we've got the lower leg coming down. This is what we call drawing through the object. Funny thing is, of course, you don't have to draw through the object, but sometimes if you don't do this, when you draw a limb that is behind, something might look a bit off, simply because you've miscalculated something. So here is, I always call it a destination drawing. You draw where you intend to start and where you intend to end. That does make it a bit easier. So here's the front of the back foot, then the calf of the back foot, there. So now we have to decide the trajectory of this foot like we just did. So again, it's slightly leaning, slightly going to the left, correct? Let's put in the top of the foot. So his toes are touching the floor, barely. Let's get that going. Let's get the heel showing. Bring it in to the side of the foot. Come forward. Extend the toes very slightly. Put a bit of depth into the foot there. Good. We've got our basic shapes in. So let's see what we got. There's our basic shapes. Now, as we take a macro view, I'm going to make this lower leg even bigger. I'm going to increase the volume of that upper leg. See my computer saving? That is Clip Studio Paint doing an intermittent backup. Quite ingenious, really. It does momentary saves just in case something happens to your computer. So now what we haven't foreshortened is the neck. The neck is behind here. And if you like, we would see the base of the neck there. Okay. Okay, let's get really pedantic. This would be the neck behind his head. Never say I leave you uninformed. So that's his neck behind, if you like. So we got that. We've already got the head. So let's just establish the shape of the head even more. Here's the chin. It's going to come up the side. Now the neck is going to attach to the head. So let's reaffirm the head, but we make it more cubed, more dimensional, more of dimension. We will fine tune this to the jaw, etc. later on. So we've got this. So next, for any of you that's joined me here very regularly, what normally comes next? We find the center, what we call center line. Let's see if we actually know what we're drawing. We find the center of each part of the body. So remember I mentioned not to confuse. Oh, sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. I do not want to find the center first. Let's slow down, boy. Let's do our dimensions. That's where we really define the sides of objects, tops and sides. So I normally do this with a purple pencil. So this we've established is the top of the head. This is going to be the front of the face. Let me zoom in close. Get in close, boy. This is the side of the neck. This is the top of the torso. This is the side of the arm. This goes down from the side to the top of the arm. You can do that as well. Just make sure we know where we are. These fingers are slightly rotated from us. See, that's the side of the fist. Here's the side of the thumb. This is the back of the arm coming up here, so we can put a dimension here. Now, arms do twist and rotate. Here it's quite straight in that instance. This is the thickness going down the side of this hand. Same here. That's the side of the fingers. I do like getting into the dimensions of fingers sometimes. Really good fun. This is the side of the torso. Now, I went back to do this because this is going to take us into a very interesting part later on. So this is the side, whoops. This is the side of the torso. We've got our underpants hidden behind. We can't really see what's going on there. This is the side of his leg. This is the side of his lower leg. Now, it's quite important that we get this right. His lower leg comes down the side of the foot. And this is the top of his foot and a little bit of the front. The man who taught me about, okay, I won't say he taught me about this, but the person that really made me appreciate the dimensions of feet is the great Jim Starlin, living legend. When that man drew Captain Marvel's boots as a kid, I used to stare at that man's feet. the way he would construct feet for hours. I was amazed. He would depict the shoes in a certain way that was, well, boots, I suppose. Whoops, I don't like that siding. That's more like that. That's more the side of that foot. Good. So have we got most of our dimensions in? Yeah, that does it for the dimensions. So now after that comes the center line. Now look at my layer palette over here. My dimensions, I'm going to make purple. My center line, I make light blue. I always do center lines in light blue. Fleshing out, I always do gray. I'm coloring my palette here. And my skeleton, I always make in red. Good. So now my center line, sorry, that's meant to be blue. Light blue. I do with like a magenta color. Now I've got to be careful what I choose here, because I've noticed when I look at the playback, sometimes my blue pencil is a little bit light. So here's the center of the torso. Go to the center of the neck. Here's the center of the face that we kind of established prior. Now the center of this bicep is actually somewhere about here. See, now this is debatable here. Your lower arms do rotate a lot. In some respects, that could be seen as a side there. Here's the center of the back of the arm. Here's the center of the finger. Goes up to the knuckle. Center of the other finger. There. Center of the little finger. And the thumb, very foreshortened, will be his center. Can you see all that? Yeah, I think you can. Look at the bicep. Center of the bicep goes up to the center of the shoulder. And the center of this forearm curves around and goes away from us. So fingers again, slightly displaced, yeah, because we're looking at these fingers slightly from the side. Good. There's our raised index finger and the center of the thumb. Good. Now, look at this, foreshortening. We can see the center of that thigh, but it goes away from us. There, the center of this lower leg is somewhere over here. See, it's slightly displaced. So when we come down to the foot, we make sure we maintain that displacement. Now this foot is even more rotated, and the center of this falls about here. But Jerome, how do you know where the center of that is? You can look at the shape, and you know drawing is all about averaging. It's all about gauging, right? We get it wrong sometimes. We go back in and we fix it. But that is generally what we're looking at. And this is the center, you could say, of the torso as it goes behind him. See, it joins to the center shoulder over here. Good. So that gives us a total construction of our character. So to make sure we know what's really going on, next come the trajectories. Let me just check my messages here. I can see, I think you have said something else. Colossal Boy was perhaps third favorite Legionnaire behind Ultra Boy and Karate Kid. Ah, so Dan knows all about that. Yeah, man, Colossal Boy was cool. Ultra Boy was all fantastic. Karate Kid, Monel. My favorite was probably Lightning Lad. You asked what comes next. My answer was Say. You know what? Dan, you're the man. Say. I didn't, did I? My goodness. Isn't this terrible, right? When people watching know your own know your routine better than you do. Dreadful stuff. Right, next comes our contours. Now, contours is what I share with my students to make sure they really understand what is happening with their character. Because sometimes foreshortening can get a bit confusing. So we started from the arms earlier. Let's start from the legs now, okay? So I like to work with 3 contours. Now look at this foot. This is difficult because here, this foot is traveling in that direction. Can you see that? By the time it gets down here, it's actually going like this. So somewhere here, you might even get something like this. Does it make sense? Bit tricky. Here. Now this, when we put the costume onto the mannequin, an understanding of this will help you draw the costume at the right trajectories. When you look at really good comic artists, the main thing that they get right is their trajectories. If you check their trajectories here, they're spot on. Now, this is a tough one. You see here, this foot is traveling towards us like this already. This just below the ankle is going away from us. But by the time it gets here, it's like that. And this is actually why feet are so difficult to draw. See here, as it goes down the side, this arc is that gentle. Whoops. This arc is very gentle at this point. Look at the side of the foot. It's when this changes into this more aggressive curve. We've got the lower foot here. I like to do 3 contours per part. So here, there, curve here, put another trajectory curve here. Now this is the most brutal. Look at the thigh. We really got to hug this cylinder. And I would say this is the most difficult part of drawing. I've seen some great drawings from some fanboys, and where they let themselves down is when it comes to foreshortening, they don't take into true account the volume of what it is they're drawing. There's my underpants or overpants, as someone said. So let's get some torso trajectories in. We know the lower body is curved, and now it's going up the side here. Here again. Oh, now something that I didn't do, let me go back to my dimensions layer. It's a tricky one. This body is rotated. You could say to some degree, we momentarily see part of his body coming over in this direction. Okay? Good. Let's go back to our contours. Here, this body is rotated and leaning forward. So he's leaning slightly. Look at the distance from there to there. Make sure you keep that constant. So we really know when we put the costume in, we've got to know exactly how things are flowing. So the costume flows with the drawing. And as I was alluding to earlier, when you see some of the really great artists out there, what they've really got going on that's really good is just the way how they make things hug contours. Their foreshortening, etc., is very on point. So here, what I normally do actually is on my center line, I will often put in my eye line. You can see I did a bit there on the dimensions. Whoops, that's the wrong shade of blue, boy. So let's put in basic placeholder for where the eye lines may fall. Good. And the nose and the mouth, if his mouth is closed. But if a mouth is open, it changes the shape of the head. We will come to that later on. Good, so we got our contours going on. Now let's look at this arm coming towards us here. Let's put in a contour here. Remember, it's got to hug that cylinder. Saving, it's saving automatically. And again, here. I just misspoke. It's not saving automatically. It's backing up. Don't get confused. It's not actually a normal save. Now the arm and then the hand. The hand is coming towards us like this. Make sure you know that foreshortening on these fingers, especially when you come to those joints. Makes a big difference. And that little finger's going away from us. Got our trajectories going there. Oh, got a few of you watching. Thank you for tuning in. A couple of comments here. Raul, the power of those scribbles. Yes, Raul, my partner in crime from Late Night Art Attack. Trajectory is my new favorite word. Trajectories, man. Trajectories rule. That's right, Raul. Raul also presents a show with me very late on a Friday night, early Saturday morning, called Late Night Art Attack. So I was here at 1 a.m. this morning. And I can actually give you a preview of what me and Raul got up to this morning. So yeah, why not do that? Every time Raul comes in, it reminds me to do this. I must get a bit more proactive. So here's a preview of what me and Raul got up to earlier this morning in the wee hours. Here is Late Night Art Attack recap from earlier this morning. Have a look at this.
Previously on Late Night Art Attack.
So you saw that and you heard that. Raul was drawing, oh dear, my poor old memory is failing me again. Raul was drawing three beautiful ladies from a movie that released today. I can't remember the name of the movie. And I was paying tribute to Chuck Norris, who, as you probably all know, passed away yesterday. Very sad. Chuck Norris, an absolute favorite of mine. Yes, he passed away. So, in fact, the end credits to today's Super Saturday will be the time lapse of what you just saw again, in tribute to the great man, Chuck Norris. I just put in the trajectories to that bat leg that I left out. Good. So I think we've got all of our fundamental character in. So let's actually start to fine tune all of the anatomy, etc. Now I can look at this and I can see this arm is a little bit unforeshortened there. I'm going to shorten that arm slightly. So let's go in for a bit more detail and the costume, etc. So first of all, I'm going to flesh out, I'm going to start to put bits of the costume in now in a layer that I call DT, detail. So I'm going to make these less in opacity. I start to put the costume and details onto our colossal ball. So first of all, you know I'm going to do this. If you've tuned in here for any number of times, you know that I'm obsessed with large boots because of Gene Colan. And what I'm going to do is the same thing as normal. Now look at this. See that trajectory here? I got to be careful not to make my boots too small. I've committed to my... Am I overdoing it? Is it possible to overdo your boots? I'm not convinced that it is possible. So here's my Gene Colan. Look at that, man. God damn, brother. You're cooking. Look at the size of them boots. You can judge an artist by the size of his boots. How about that? Now, let's get the shape. Before I start talking too much nonsense, let's make sure we get the shape of these boots correct. Now, this is a tricky one because Mike Grell, he put a taper onto the middle of the boot. Now, we don't have a cylinder. Maybe I should be drawing cylinders for the costume as well. I'm imagining that the center of the boot is there. My final destination. Final destination, boy. So now my boot, no, I'm going to move it over slightly. I'm going to move it over. Look at my trajectories. Don't forget your trajectories, boy. There's my boot coming down the front. Now here's where I'm going to get cheeky. He's got like a center pleat on his boot. So let's get some inertia. Get some inertia in your boots. So I'm going to make that go over. That come in, out, and come in again. Good. Now for the, okay, let me make that line a bit more definitive so you can really see what's going on. I give it a final render over. Remember, keep your pencils light. But I'm the teacher here. I'm doing this for your benefit. I'm doing some dark pencils. I'm just semi-rendering so you can see what I'm doing. So let's put in a bit of texture for the boots. You've got some folding going on here. So as the boot comes down, here's our Jim Starlin dimensions. The boot is coming around. Good. Then we've got to stick a sole onto the boot. We can see the heel coming down, but then the outstep will intrude and we will only see the sole emerge from here again. We can put some basic creases in. We've got our contours underneath, which kind of helps guide our hand, if you like. That's a boot. Now here's his leg. So now we have to flesh this out to actually put some anatomy in. So there I am putting in the knee, shape of the knee. And I'm going to buff our brother up a bit more. Colossal, I'm going to put your calf out here, man. And I'm going to put it over there. I'm going to make this leg a bit broader. There. Then the knee comes up. Then we've got this big upper thigh muscle coming up here. Now in the thigh muscle, going over the back here. No, has he got his pants outside? Oh yeah. That man's got his pants outside. See that? The back of his leg actually goes behind his boot. Now we've got his trunks coming up the back here. Now Colossal Boy has a huge belt. We're going to come to that in a minute. The end of our underpants comes to about there. There's the top of the leg. So we can put the pants in there. There's a leg coming down the back. Back of the knee. We come to our boots again. His boots are relatively quite high. So if we put, remember, Gene Colan. Always remember that name, Gene Colan. Now the thing is, no, I want to make his calf more buff. So for my basic shape, I've taken the liberty to buff that calf a bit more. So now I must move the boot back to accommodate that calf. How wonderful, how lovely. So here's the thickness of the boot. It comes around again. Remember the tapering. Find where you're going. I'm going to go to there, and then the boot. Come on the back, and come down to this point. Drawing it through the object. Imagine the boot comes down here, then it's going to come out here, and join up there. Got a few messages here. What these noisy boys talking about? Oh yeah, we had this already. Trajectory is my favorite new word. I love that word as well. I also like inertia. How about that? Rose says, Chucky the man. I'm not sure who you're referring to. Who's Chucky? Thanks for tuning in. Okay, folks, to say thanks to the guys for tuning in. Ready or Not 2. Oh, Ready or Not. Oh, that's the name of the movie, right? Yes, correct. That's who Raoul was drawing, the lady from Ready or Not. Raoul says, the mighty calf. I predict will Dan's next book. Okay, just think, if you're not sure what's going on here, okay, Dan in the chat is also the publisher of Thunderzone Comics and Argo Comics, of which I do quite a bit of work for Thunderzone. Dan is also an ex-bodybuilder. I think he's still doing it, so he's still bodybuilding. I'm not sure if he's still going into competitions. And I think Raoul there, you're alluding to Dan's calf muscles. Oh, God. The mighty calf from Argo Comics. Yes, I think that's what he's alluding to. Because a couple of weeks ago, Raoul actually drew Dan as he's flexing. That's the backstory. You haven't entered an asylum. This all makes sense. Yeah, Ready or Not number 2. That's the name of the movie. Sorry, I'm showing my old age here. Now it says Captain Cars, Lord of the Lower Leg. Indeed. The lower leg rules supreme. So here we have the boots coming in. We put some folds in. When it comes to the ankle area. Now this foot's a bit more in profile. We come in, put a bit of a crease here. Then we get to our Jim Starlin front. God damn. Someone call Jim Starlin. Show him that I can do his feet better than him. Put the soles of the shoes on. And there we have it. Put in a few creases. See the trajectories for the creases on the feet there? Or it actually shows you what's going on. Good. So we've kind of rendered the lower legs. Now, here's the funny thing. Colossal Boy has quite a large belt. Now, looking at my torso here, the body of my character is a little bit broad, I would say. So I'm going to take that in as I flesh this out, as I put this detail in. So I think his belt, okay, here's his underpants that we established earlier. His belt being out here, I can live with that. So remember, destination. Find your destination. So there's the belt there. Here's the other side of the belt. Make sure you get the tilt of the body in, right? You're going to make sure you make allowances for that. And the belt has a shape. I just noticed something. Now, who was copying who? Look at this. If we look at Goliath here, his belt is a similar shape, you know. I didn't realize this. And Colossal Boy has a very similar belt. Now, it's an oval in the center. So look at our center line. So we know the top of the oval is there. So now we can bring this down in an arc. And we're gonna get our curve of the belt at the right trajectory. How good is that? Now the belt wraps around the body. So we put the foreshortening. Look at our contours. Follow the contour. You've done the hard work before. You've done the calculating beforehand. And that's going to come down. And we raise the belt up. It's going around the torso. It's wrapping around his form, yeah? Good, so we've got the belt in at the right trajectory. And the belt has a bit of detail on it, has a circle. So we put the circle, whoops, look at our center line. Of course, the center line is going to move forward because of the volume of the belt. But we put in a basic circle, and it's got two shapes either side of it. Sketch those in. Good. It's an interesting pattern. This belt insignia. So we've got the belt going around the back. So now, remember I mentioned, I think his torso is a bit on the large side. So I'm bringing his back in slightly. And I'm going to grab this side of my character. Take all layers, press Command T. Whoops. Where's my center? And I want to bring his stomach in slightly. So I'm going to bring that in. Good. I prefer that. I'm going to go to my flesh out layer and just correct that. There. That's better. Whoa, this image is oh, you know why this image is saving so often? I'm working on the same canvas that I did the Chuck Norris on. And I've forgotten to restart the time lapse. So what it's doing is it's time lapsing all the time. Now Colossal Boy has a pretty brutal costume, quite complex. How are we doing for time? Oh, 20 minutes left. Okay, should get the basics of this costume done. So as I always say, find the center of the object. Now, Colossal Boy has a circle on the center of his chest. So his collarbone is going to be somewhere here. Make sure, remember what I drew earlier, how the shoulder displaces the collarbone. An amazing part of the human anatomy, truly is. So now we've got that, we know the circle has to be between here, and let's get in a bit more anatomy. Let's see where his chest falls. We know the bicep will come down and it will lead to your chest cavity. We know that the shoulder muscle will come down and lead to the chest cavity. So remember, find your destination. Find your destination. That's a new one, right? Find your destination. We're foreshortening. So the chest is going to drop in here. There's the center of the body. So it's going to come in here. And his other chest muscle is going to be somewhere here. We're doing this so we know where to put his chest plate. There. Now we want a circle dead center. So there. Okay, let's have a quick lesson on how to draw a warped circle. There's the center of the circle. This is the top of the circle. This is the bottom of the circle. So let's gauge. Okay, now we're foreshortening. So that distance from there to there is about there, but it's foreshortened. So it's going to be slightly wider than it is deep. So put in your markers, put in your destination. I want to go to that point. Now we join up the arcs. So there, that gives us 1/4 of the circle. Let's put in the bottom right. That looks about correct. And now join up this. That looks close enough. Now, of course, we've got a drawing program here. We can draw a circle and warp it or distort it. But this is called SUPA-SATURDAYS Draw-ALONG. And I do like to do things as organically as possible. Then there's an inner circle. Inner circle. Jeez. Let's zoom in close on this. Let's rotate our canvas. Let's put the inner circle into Colossal Boy's chest plate. I'm going to have to finish a bit early today because we've got a few trailers to run. And we've got one very exciting trailer from the Kalamazoo Comic Con, our friends over there, giving you a preview of what to expect at that con next month. It's a great trailer, lots of great information. So I want to share that with you. So here we have the bird that's on the logo. Remember, it's at perspective. Keep an eye on that center line. The bird has got to be in perspective to that, in relation to that, or it's going to be out. It's going to be out of perspective. There, one wing comes over there, another wing over there, there, and now we join up. The inside of the wings come up like that. Okay, so that's the Colossal Boy logo on the chest. Now he's got two straps coming over his chest, and they go over his lats. So look, you've got to take the volume of the body into account. These straps are quite thick. There, it's going to go over his lats and over to his back. I'm going to give these straps a thickness. Now, I'm not sure exactly how thick his center chest plate piece is, but I'm going to make it flat for now. So I'm taking The strap over the back. Strap over the back. I like the sound of that. Strap over the back. I like the sound of that. God damn. That's some good rhyming. Now we can see how close that strap is to the neck. We drew through the object, so we know it's going to be close to the neck here. So we can take that strap in that trajectory, and it comes from the outer and it goes over the shoulder. See here? So we can join that up. So that's the top of the strap. Then it comes down the center. There, there. Get our final destination going again, boy. We want these straps to be a constant width. And I'm making it hug the curve of the spine and the stomach. Jim Steranko, another great artist, who's still with us. So, you know, he's still alive and kicking. But the way that man would draw stomach muscles with a curved torso, absolutely fantastic. We'll come back to the anatomy later. So there's these lats coming up, they're raised. Let's buff them up a bit. That shoulder muscle is coming over here. You see that leads into the collarbone. Yeah. Now, Colossal Boy has shoulder pieces. So they come up, they go over the shoulder there. Then they come down over the chest, and they come down the side of the centerpiece here. I do like me some shoulder pieces. And I'm gonna go full Jim styling. I'm gonna make these suckers big. Now they're going around the body, okay? So it's gonna come from behind. Look, I'm drawing through the object. That's behind the arm there. You see that, right? So that shows us that that's gonna come up here somewhere. Then it's gonna drop behind his lats. Let me get rid of that. Now this arm is pointing slightly the other direction. So let's get our heights correct. It's going to be about there. Final destination again. It goes across the chest, about here. It's coming up. No, it goes out and comes back in. From this angle, we can't really see the going out that much, which is a bit tricky. So it's going to come up here. It's going to enter the body somewhere around here. So let's join this up. So as it comes out, there. Now it comes up, there. Draw through the object. The other side is going to be about here. And coming up from the lats, it's going to come up from there, because the strap went over the shoulders. Good. Now the thing is this arm is closer to us than this one slightly. So I think there's an argument to make this slightly taller, slightly bigger. Smaller pencil. Whoops. Smaller eraser, I mean. Let's erase this. Good. Now, has he got anything on his arms? Okay, he's got gloves. So let's get the gloves in first. Let's make them too big. Did you ever see the size of Captain America's gloves when Gene Colan drew them? Oh man, that man. He knows exactly how to exaggerate. That's the word for Gene Colan. He would exaggerate things in a way that's unbelievable. So I'm going to buff our colossal boy up a bit. There. Let's get this bicep happening a bit more. I have a foreshorten in this hand enough, you know. But it's okay. It's okay. So this is bicep. Coming in here. Oh, sorry, I drew through the object there. I should leave that there. You got bicep, tricep coming in here. I'm trying not to get too much into the muscles, but it's hard to resist. That big forearm, foreshortening muscle here. That's quite important to get into position. All right. So I've done it. I've got into the anatomy. I didn't want to do this, but you made me. Let's put this rib cage in, right? Because this is an important part of the foreshortening. Then the underarm. Then we can really curve that stomach. There's this. No, his muscles can't show through his costume. But I just want to make sure I get his six-pack happening. Get a six-pack happening. Get some ribs coming down there. Coming down here as well. Now, I've got to make sure you keep the perspective on those stomach muscles as well. Did I make his rib cage too high? Too low, sorry. Maybe. Maybe raise that slightly. Okay, that'll do for now. Basic anatomy. Okay, this. Now we've got some creasing coming from behind here because of the glove. So now, look at these gloves, man. This is the big foreshortened thumb here. So we get a dip in the wrist, get some creases coming up from behind here. So here's a knuckle. Here's another knuckle. Here's another knuckle. Knuckle. And one joint, two joints. I want some tough looking fingers on this. Okay. So look at our trajectories. Look at our finger. Get that volume going in those fingers. Comes up to the knuckle. Now, these fingers that I'm doing, dare I say it, are a bit Jack Kirby. Jesus Christ. I'm doing them all, man. I've got Mike Grell happening. I've got Jack Kirby happening. And Jim Starlin. All right. Okay, and Jerome. What you say, drawing like yourself? Now, what's the fun in that? Actually, this is very much my style. I'm taking influences from those guys, but anyone looking at this image will know that this is not Jack Kirby or Gene Colan. In fact, some fanboys out there might say, how dare you study their names? Your drawing is nowhere in their class. And I would say, fair enough. What's the time? 6 minutes. 6 minutes, boy. Okay, I'm going to finish the basic sketch. There's my computer saving again. Okay, get the biceps happening. Get the shoulder muscle in. Have I made his bicep too big? Possibly. I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to buff up his forearm. Remember, he's got those big gloves. Big gloves. Follow the trajectories. Oh, I didn't put trajectories on his arm. This foreshortening on his hand is very brutal. Okay, here we are. Back to those fingers. Get those planes happening. There's the front of that index finger. Get the thumb. Sorry, not thumb. Ring finger. Little finger. Folding in there. We get some creases. Following the trajectories. Now we get this thumb. Remember, get the dimension of the thumb in. Okay, good. So we've got 3 minutes left. Okay, Colossal Boy has a mask. Let me see if we can get the basics in of the face. Yeah, we're putting a basic face shape. We'll come out next week and finish. Right, see, the eyebrows always makes the proper dimension. Now I'm gonna make our guy have his mouth open, which will affect the chin. Good. It's now going to take his chin lower because his mouth is open. So we're going to have to pick this up again next week. I'm going to run some trailers now. You can see how the Colossal Boy is shaping up. We're just getting to the face, and we'll finish his head next week. I'm saving. So yes, thanks once again for tuning in. Let me just check that we've got any more messages. No, we're safe there. So I'm going to run a few trailers, and I will see you back here again next week, same time, to continue our Colossal Boy here. He will be the last of our outsized heroes that we're drawing here on Super Saturdays Draw-Along. And of course, join me on Saturday, very early Saturday morning, 1 a.m. Eastern Time, for Late Night Art Attack, me and Raul, which I showed you earlier. And yes, looking forward to seeing you all again next weekend. Meanwhile, do enjoy some of these trailers of different things we're involved with, myself personally, and of course, Madness Entertainment Group. Peace!
Ozzy, what are you doing? Come and have a look at this lovely book that was sent over.
You're wrapping in the perpendicular.
Oh, go on and spit the bat out your mouth. No one can understand you like that.
Say how 5 dentists and all.
Oh, well, that's not much better. Ozzy, why don't you sing to me? I can always understand you when you sing to me.
Fucking my brains. What is this my publisher sent me? Inked in black with art so sweet.
So what do you think? Do you like it?
Oh, Lord, yeah.
If you like stories about truth, honor, and justice, then you should check out MAGA Man. It is Donald Trump as many now see him, the defender of justice and a warrior for peace through strength. MAGA Man is an all-American style 22-page comic book, so get over to fundmycomic.com and support the culture of truth, honor, and justice. With MAGA Man, the most needed hero of all. MAGA Man.
Thunderzone Comics returns. 5 all-new comics, Sumo Boy, Weirdo, Marshall Strong, Big House Blues, and SupaCross, plus a free how to draw characters from the Thunderzone. Bringing you back all 5 new releases. The Kickstarter campaign is live now.
Thunderzone Comics!
Coming to Kalamazoo. An event so epic that it must be seen to be believed. A celebration so grand it spans 3 days. Kalamazoo Comic-Con. Join us April 10th through 12th, 2026 at the Kalamazoo Expo Center, 2900 Lake Street, Kalamazoo, Michigan. Doors open Friday from noon to 7 p.m., Saturday 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., and Sunday 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Meet legendary comic guests like Andrew Petboy, Bart Sears, Bob Hall, Corinne Roberts, Dan Monroe, Danica Davidson, Paul D. Story, Randy Zimmerman, Roger Schultz, Scott Prosima, and Tim Seeley. They're all ready to sign, sketch, and share stories from your favorite comics. And that's not all. Rub shoulders with other special guests including Blake Foster from Power Rangers, Daniel Logan from Star Wars, Hunter Dino from Power Rangers Dino Fury, Jason Douglas, the voice of Attack on Titan, Megan Shipman from My Hero Academia, Morgana Ignis from Hell of a Boss, Natalie Von Sistine from Dan to Dan, Tiffany Vollmer from Dragon Ball, Young Ye from Like a Dragon, Georgina Leahy, Christina Gailey, Christine McCulfer, Jesse Milo Miles, Kristen Simmons, and the amazing Pink Opal cosplay. Dive into non-stop activities, thrilling panels and Q&As, autograph sessions, photo ops with stars, a massive exhibit hall packed with comics, merch, and collectibles, artist alley showcases, epic cosplay contests, gaming tournaments, kids zones for family fun, and so much more to geek out over. Don't miss this ultimate celebration of comics and pop culture. Grab your tickets now at grcomiccon.com. Prices start low with 3-day passes for the full adventure. We'll see you there, heroes.
Super Saturdays
If you missed the live viewing of any Med production, you can find all our content on Roku or as a member of this channel. Madness Entertainment Group.